Hey, Kinder-1st leaders, thank you guys so much for all that you do. Thank you for being here and being with us for November. This month, we're talking about courage. And courage is all about being brave enough to do what you should, even when you're afraid or others are afraid around you, right? Or even when the crowd is around you and saying something different, but you know that it's wrong. Following what God has for us. That's what courage is all about this month. And so as we dive into this first activity is going to be an I Spy activity because we're talking about Joshua and Caleb and how they are sent as spies, along with some other spies, into the land that God was talking to them about. And they found all these giants. That's what the big story is all about. And so all of that, going back to, we're going to play a game of I Spy because these people were spies going into that land. And so play a couple rounds of I Spy, have a lot of fun with it and whatnot. And then the second opening activity, what you're going to do is we're going to have a fear scale, okay? And so create some sort of scale where there's like maybe tape like a 1, a 5, and a 10 on the ground, quite a bit apart, so where they can stand. They can like move and stand where they fit on the scale for each one of these particular ones. And so you'll have a lot of examples like spiders, snakes, heights, bunnies, whatever it may be, right, on the list. And so as you go through each one of those, have them walk to where they are on that fear scale, depending on whatever you say it is, okay? And so that'll be really fun. And then you can wrap it with, we're going to find out today how two people handled a really scary situation in the Bible story. And again, then we're going to Joshua and Caleb, how they were sent into this unknown land and they saw tons of giants and how they everyone came back afraid, but Joshua and Caleb were like, but God's got us. God knows what's going on, right? God can pull us through. God can help us defeat these people. And so because he's going to give us the land. And so all of that is going back to, again, that courage. And so even though everyone else around them was scared or in fear, Joshua and Caleb were there and they were like, no, like we can do this because God told us we can. And so it's going to be a really good story. And then as you come back, basically go ahead and do the prayer time. And with this prayer time, make sure, have everyone sit in a circle, make sure everyone knows the name of the person on their left, and then have them pray for that person on their left, okay? And again, this goes back to courage, right? Speaking up for these Kinder-1st kids can sometimes be a little hard. And so have them go ahead and encourage their friends, pray for their friends next to them, making sure that they remember their name beforehand and stuff. And then you can go ahead and pray a blanket over the children as well. That would be really good. Then the memory verse activity, basically you'll have everyone go ahead and stand up and do the motions with you together for the memory verse, okay? So the memory verse is Joshua 1:9, the second part. And what it is be strong and brave. Do not be afraid. And that'll be with one hand. And then you can do not lose hope, as shaking your finger with the second hand. Let the Lord, your God, be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9, okay? So be strong and brave. Do not be afraid. Do not lose hope. I am the Lord, your God. I will be with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. Awesome. That's going to be a really good verse for them to learn. Then this next activity is a freeze, or is kind of like a freeze tag activity. But basically what you're going to do is have one or two volunteers. One will be Joshua, one will be Caleb, and everyone else will be against Joshua and Caleb in this scenario. Now, here's the thing, is when everyone's trying to tag Joshua and Caleb, you'll eventually find out, maybe they'll eventually find out, well, no, you can give them a hint later if they don't, but that what happens is if Joshua and Caleb are close by or next to each other, then they can unfreeze each other, okay? And so the freeze only applies to their feet, but if Joshua and Caleb are in close proximity to each other, then they are allowed to untag one another. So for instance, if Joshua gets tagged on one side of the room, but Caleb is not tagged, then Caleb can try to get to Joshua to untag him. But the key is to figure out, okay, maybe they'll figure out eventually that if they are right next to each other, then they can keep unlimited untagging each other and still playing the game. If everyone does get frozen, if the Joshua and Caleb both get frozen, then go ahead and choose two new Joshua and Caleb's to be it for the rest of the game. And then go ahead and discuss, Joshua and Caleb in the story, they chose to let their fear, they were the ones standing up, right? And so all the other Israelites, they were choosing to let their fear guide them and not trust in God. And maybe if they had even listened to Joshua and Caleb, then they wouldn't have wandered around for 40 years in the wilderness, right? And so all of that to say, God will give you courage when you need it, and we can trust God. And our bottom line, you can do what you should, even when others are afraid. So even when everyone else around you doesn't know what to do or is afraid, we can trust God no matter what. Okay, and then this last activity, you have 4 different teams that you can split your children up in. And with this, you're going to have them search for an envelope, and that envelope has a number on it. So you have 4 different envelopes. They have scenarios inside of them, and you can go ahead and hide those around the room. But basically, each team is supposed to find their envelope. And once they find their envelope, they can come sit on the carpet and wait for further instructions. Then you're going to have them open up the envelopes one at a time and read those scenarios together. So obviously, you might have to help them read a little bit through that, but then talk about what would you do in the scenario to not be afraid, or to choose to rely on God and not be fearful or anything like that. And so that'll be really good as you go through those scenarios to really help them connect how they can apply not having fear in real life and really trusting in God in real life. And that's it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for all that you do. We will see you soon.